Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Babbling Irons match preview with myself and Mike. And today we're going to be breaking down the upcoming Manchester United match, a massive game, a massive point in our season, and potentially a massive 3 points before we go into Europe. So let's get into the preview and break down what's to come on Sunday. So, Mike, here we are into May now, crunch time of the season. 4 matches left to play in the Premier League and also the semi-finals of Europe. This is a big game on Sunday. United just off the back of a defeat away at Brighton on Thursday night. So they haven't had a quick turnaround either. We played Wednesday, they played Thursday. So are you a lot more confident going into this match than the City match? I know most people probably say yes because we're at home, but United have been pretty good this season, overall.
Yeah, I think it's easier to be more confident going against any team other than Man City at the moment.
True.
Am I confident about us getting a win? No, not really. It's also it's a really weird time. It's 7 o'clock at night on a Sunday. Obviously, granted, it's bank holiday, which is probably why they've done it, and to help London out with all the coronation stuff that's happening this weekend. But it's a really odd kickoff. So I would hope actually that late kind of kickoff also means that it's a London Stadium game. Well, it's just West Ham under the lights. West Ham under the lights has always been quite a boisterous crowd in most cases. So if we can start off like we did against Man City, which we started quite well, then I think the crowd will get behind the players, and then that may give us some confidence. Obviously, we're going to have some important players back as well.
Yeah.
But you say United haven't been a pushover this year. They go through patches where they're really good, and then they kind of, have a little dip again. But by and large, their form is really positive in the last few games. They've won one. They lost one in the last 5. Obviously, that was the last game. But other than that, they'd won 3 and drawn 1.
Yeah.
So they're in really good form, as opposed to us who have lost the previous 3 and drawn 1 and lost and drawn. Sorry, won 1 and drawn 1. So, I don't kind of get this idea at the moment when you look at press conferences saying that we're in good form. It's, we've lost 3 on the bounce. Granted, 2 of those is Liverpool, Man City, but the Palace one was just an embarrassing performance.
Yeah, I think the good form, came from April where we had that period of a few wins. But yeah, like you say, other than that, it hasn't been amazing of late in the past couple of weeks. So this is kind of a really important part. And the most important thing about this game is everyone knows that 3 more points for us guarantees that we're safe. Like, that is it then. And if we were to get 3 points on Sunday, we would just be able to relax and breathe and go into Europe with, so much less on our shoulders, which is why I think this game is just so important that we try and win it the best we can.
Let's take a look at the Bournemouth game beforehand. When I said that, when people saying, well, it's not must win, you said it's must win, I think on Twitter.
Yeah.
I said obviously in our kind of stream as well that it is absolutely must win when you look at the games coming up, because I did say Palace might be a banana skin in between the two games we expected to lose. So if you win that, you're almost safe if you then get another 3 points either in an unexpected league or in one of the ones you expect. You're pretty much safe.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, and as you say, this is an important one for us to win, or at least attempt to win, because if we do that, we are all but safe.
Yeah.
And then the Brentford game, just go for the speed team, reward some of the young players from the under-21s, get them in as subs, not on the pitch, get them on as subs, and give those young lads a run out in the Premier League, and a decent run out. So then we can go straight into that second leg versus Alkmaar, either being able to completely go all out for 90 minutes because we don't know what the scoreline is going to be. We might be in a position where we need to go all out to win, or we might be in a position just to where we need to be, to consolidate and to do a professional job and to have our first team and fully, I guess, fresh and so on would be great. If we can win this game today, it means that Brentford game is a bit much of a dead rubber and we can just go, don't worry about it.
That's the kind of thing. When we said Bournemouth was a must win, it was because it actually was in terms of the relegation battle. This one, in my mind, against Man United, is a must win if we are serious about Europe, because I feel like if we lose against United on Sunday, we ain't going to be able to take our eye off the Premier League as much as we want. And, that rotation around Europe is going to get a little bit iffy. And I personally don't think we'll go
It's
through
also
in that
4
scenario.
defeats bounce if we do that. So we have to stop that rot leading into an important game. They need to have at least a little confidence booster.
Exactly.
Leading up into that game.
Let's look at the head-to-head going into it, because obviously it's going to be a bit different, as we've mostly seen throughout the head-to-heads this year with the lineups. But yeah, they've played one less game than us. They're obviously in the top 4 at the moment. We're down in 15th, 34 points compared to their 63. And yeah, only 9 wins for us this season compared to their 19. So we could make it double digits for wins for the season. We were stuck on 6 wins for so long. So we've kind of just got a few more wins recently, and we're close to that 10. So yeah, a win would definitely keep us up. I don't think we'd be able to be caught then, especially with the teams around us and the fixtures they've got. So with that kind of being said, Mike, we saw on Wednesday that there is a bug going around. Rice was out of the game. Souček was out of the game. Aguerd was out of the game. Looks like they're all going to come back in. But one player that's been highlighted not in training because of the bug is Cornet. And Moyes also mentioned there's another player, which we're not too sure about yet. So how do you see Moyes approaching this before we kind of get into the tactical breakdown? Do you see him setting up in a similar way he did to Man City, or do you think he'll change to a back 4 and go for it a little bit more?
I think we might see a back 4. I don't necessarily, because we'll have players back. I don't see him trying to disrupt it too much, because if he goes for a back 5, then we know he's going to play a midfield 3.
I think it will. I think it will be a back 5.
And then that's the problem, isn't it? Because then we don't have any pace, we don't have any width, really, because he's going to play Bowen and Antonio together. They do not work as a partnership. They just kind of roam into each other's space a lot of the time. They just don't really seem to connect or link play well enough as a twosome. And obviously in midfield, yes, I think that, well, as we said, that midfield ain't going to change for love nor money between now and the end of the season, apart from a bug. So I would understand if we went to a back 3, but I would be disappointed if we did. I think the other thing is, well, Soufal is potentially good as well, isn't he? So it wouldn't be beyond Moyes to do that, but it is a formation we tend to struggle with, although we did get early, I guess you could say, successes against Man City. With Antonio putting himself around. He didn't do much in the game, to be honest. Antonio wasn't amazing, but he put in a really good honest shift, and he made it difficult in that first half. So I can see that being a good thing. But I don't know. I don't know. It's just one of those ones. I think we play 2 up top. I think it suits United, because they can really start to. They don't have to worry about the fullbacks, in my opinion. They're their fullbacks, so it will just encourage Shaw to push up even higher. And on that right hand side, you're going to have to deal then with Shaw and Rashford. And on obviously the right hand side, Wan-Bissaka's just going to come inside. They're effectively going to go to a back 3 in possession.
It'll probably be Luke Shaw at centre back, because he's been playing centre back with Lindelof because of their injuries. But the premise of how they work, we're going to get into in a second, is exactly that. They like to press high on people when they can. When they go away to the bigger teams, they like to set up in more of a counter-attacking style, which I actually think wouldn't be a bad decision from them if they don't have the ball to do it against us, because we just don't deal well with that. But we're going to get into that in a very, very short moment. But in terms of Man United as a team, how have you assessed their season so far? Do you think that Ten Hag is doing as expected? Do you think he's overachieving with the squad that he's got, underachieving? How do you see it? Because people have mixed opinions on Man United at the moment.
I think you got to say he's probably achieved or overachieved, because I don't think anyone expected him to come in and to change about their way of playing so quickly. And they did well in Europe until obviously they faced Sevilla. But they'd actually done quite well. He'd moved away from Harry Maguire, because he just doesn't suit really that style of how he wants to play. You know, some players are flattered to deceive, like Anthony. just seems to just get the ball cut inside, have a shot. That seems to be pretty much his only kind of way of working. If obviously Fernandez isn't playing, they look a completely different team. Again, there's players in there that are performing decently, but not players that you'd necessarily get excited about. Maybe bar Rashford, obviously. It's probably really the only player that you're really going to be like, that's a player that's exciting, will get you off the feet kind of thing. Otherwise, that United team is very highly technical, but very good workers in most cases.
Yeah.
And they've bought into what he needs, and his way of playing is very, kind of good team ethic kind of base, a bit like Guardiola, in that you all work for one another, and it's all about positional play and moving and passing, letting the ball do the work. So certain players really bought into it. Some really benefited, like Wan-Bissaka. So I think you've got to say he's done well, and he's given players like Wan-Bissaka a new leash of life. He's actually basically resurrected Wan-Bissaka's career at Man United. Darlow is another player who's greatly benefited from the way Ten Hag wants to play. I think
what's impressed me most with Ten Hag this season, not the fact that he's already won a trophy and is in a final with another FA Cup. It's the fact that early on in the season, they took some hammerings and they took some really bad defeats. I remember they went to Brentford and lost 4-0, and everyone was slaughtering Martinez. Everyone was slaughtering these new signings, the way he's trying to play out the back. Brentford pressed on it. Can he be doing that with the Man United team he's got? And what I like most about him is that he adapted for certain situations. We saw it when they played Liverpool at home. I think that was kind of the turning point in their season. He thought, well, no, we can't play that certain way, especially against Liverpool. So we're going to adapt and we're going to play on the counter-attack, and we're going to use other strengths that we've got in the squad. So what I like about him is he's versatile. He's a versatile manager. He will like to continue to have possession when he can in games where he feels like he can dominate the ball. But then he's not stupid or naive to try and do that against teams that he knows his squad isn't capable of doing right now. So
he probably learned from his time at Ajax as well. I think, when they looked like they may have been a Champions League winner, because they absolutely smashed Real Madrid.
Yeah,
they were absolutely hammering Tottenham, but they were profligate and naive, which is why they ended up losing, in that semi-final game. I think he probably learned a lot from that he can't always stick solely to his ideals, and that he has to kind of evolve those. And I think that's probably, as you say, that's the good thing, is that he has learned, or he's looking to learn and find, well, if this is not working, I need to maybe tweak this and change this. And that's what we've seen. And Casemiro is a prime example of him highlighting something that he needed in which to shore them up, because they were too porous, quite frankly.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good segue into breaking down this kind of matchup, because it's going to be interesting how we try to counter it, because United will either go one of two ways. It is counter-attacking off ball, or they'll try and press us higher up and keep possession of the ball. We saw it in their most recent, or second most recent, away game at Spurs. That first half they were excellent. They pressed really high. They got 2 goals. They were making it really difficult for Spurs. In the second half, they made a couple of substitutions. I think they brought Fred on, and they just dropped deeper and deeper. They couldn't retain the ball, and Spurs got back into the game. So, yeah, let's take a look at kind of how we're going to line up, and potentially, and how they're going to line up potentially, and kind of look at where we can potentially exploit Man United and what we need to be aware of. Let's jump into it on the tactical bit. So, Mike, this is kind of the tactical breakdown part of this, a little bit more interactive as well. This is how we think both teams will probably line up. It looks like we will probably stick with that back three. I just think without Zuma in that lineup, Moyes just doesn't trust playing in a back four with those partnerships. So it will probably be a back three. Obviously, you mentioned Kufal being injured, which is really annoying, but Johnson's probably going to be the one to come in. Souček obviously coming back in for Downs. Paqueta maybe playing the Fornals role a little bit higher up, and then Antonio Bowen. So we've seen this set up a couple of times in the Premier League, and also we've seen it in the Conference League a lot. With United playing a 4-3-3, which we've seen with their, they've got their centre-back pairing of Martinez and Varane injured, so it's been Lindelof and Shaw. Casemiro is often the one that's kind of the isolated figure. So let's just look at how we're going to kind of set up when we don't have the ball, because we've seen it in so many kind of home games that it very much becomes kind of this. And in this kind of formation, what we saw against Man City was Antonio was having to cover this left-hand side. Obviously, Bowen was tracking back, and then Downs was working with Kufal on this occasion, with kind of blocking off Bernardo Silva and Grealish. But with how Man United play when they're going to have the ball, obviously they're going to be pushed higher up here. Martial's going to be, he's very much one that tries to come in here and get on the ball. He's not really kind of the target man figure. And then what they like to do is they like to keep Antony and Rashford pretty high and wide. And what we'll see from Fernandes, and if it's Eriksen or Sabitzer, they will constantly look to move forwards when United have the ball. They will either have Fernandes underlapping in here, or they will create an overlap which allows Rashford to come inside, which he loves to do. The same with Antony, another player that doesn't like to go on the outside. We've seen it so many times. He will come inside. And Wan-Bissaka isn't really one that's great at overlapping. So what they'll do, if it's Eriksen or Bruno, they will either go around this way or underlap and create the space. And one thing that they like to do is just leave Casemiro free, to be honest. When they have the ball, if they have it here, they will push up high. Shaw as well, someone that will bring out the ball in possession. And then they'll use Dalot at left back at the moment, or Malacia, to create those overloads on this side, and they'll kind of tuck Wan-Bissaka in. Similar how many teams are starting to do it with kind of City being the one to push it forward under Pep. But defensively, where do you see United causing us problems if we were to set up like this, Mike?
The movement, quite frankly, we're very stagnant at times. Again, Casemiro is the type of player that likes to hit passes. Now, you would argue that Gerd and Emerson have good level of pace, so they should be able to mark Antony. But it's in that right-hand side United, left-hand side for us, is where we put Antonio, as we saw against City, was dropping into that left-hand side. He actually did quite well, but again, he's not played in such a long time that his defensive awareness isn't as great. So you're going to put a lot on Rice. So if Rice has to come out to that side, that creates those pockets of spaces for Eriksen to drop into between him and Paqueta or him and Rice. Same again with Fernandes to kind of roam into those positions as he does. Again, Casemiro, where he is, that can also, again, it kind of baits, say, Paqueta to come out and press Casemiro, and if you look at it like that, they're going to put players behind our defensive line. So you arguably, what you really need to do is to allow the ball, when United have it, into the feet of, say, Lindelof or even Wan-Bissaka. You need to kind of stop it getting into the feet of, say, Shaw, because he's probably the most complete player in terms of being able to bring the ball out from the back and to be able to pass the ball out. So if you can get it into, say, the likes of Wan-Bissaka and Lindelof, you're more likely to force an error and to force a mistake. Obviously, what we've also noticed with De Gea now, he's playing far less trying to play out the back. After the Sevilla game, it's just been safety first and clearing it, because he has been awful. Now, one thing that we need to do is, if United are trying to play out from the back and through De Gea, we just have to chase De Gea. Every time he gets the ball, we have to chase and put pressure on him, because he will make a mistake. Not because he's a bad player, but because he also now kind of knows that he's in trouble.
Yeah.
And that he's not confident with it at his feet. And a few games we've really seen it as a big thing. Now, I think Moyes was talking about being happy to have the 6-footers back. So like having Rice back, having Souček back, so we can bully United.
Yeah.
Well, bully is an interesting thing, because the truth of the matter is, you're only going to bully them if you get near them. So if he wants us to bully United, he's going to have to set us up to be really proactive out of possession and to consistently pressure.
Yeah.
We know Eriksen is good and pretty much can deal with a press well, so can Fernandes. So you've got to be so sharp and so quick in those situations in which to get onto them as the ball is coming into them, to then get that kind of physicality on them. Now, Casemiro is not someone we're going to be able to bully. That's just simple truth. He will flail around, though, if anyone goes near him. He's that Busquets type of hard man. Go flying into tackles, will make those dirty tackles, will be incredibly dirty, but the moment someone touches him, will roll around on the pitch as if they've been shot by a sniper. He's that type of hard man, that, the laughable kind. Fantastic footballer, but again, there are elements of his game that is just
Yeah.
laughable. And we have to kind of, we have to filter, for me, United into Lindelof and into Wan-Bissaka, and then to limit that space centrally, because all of our Man United's players want to be in that central space. Rashford
Yeah.
does not want to be out wide, nor does Antony. We need to act. You kind of have to filter them central and get really compact and tell them to go wide, because then you are looking at the likes of Ogbonna, Gerd and Kehrer. Then they're going to have to deal with the ball into the area. They're not going to look to just toss the ball into the area, especially if with Weghorst not playing.
Yeah.
It kind of maybe feeds into us a little bit. If we can get very compact, and like we're saying there, you then use Antonio and Bowen to essentially then play a 0 up top kind of thing. And when you kind of then break out, you have to then utilize Paqueta as that player that floats in between, and Antonio and Bowen then look to exploit those spaces in the wide spots. Obviously, it's going to be a big burden on the fullbacks. They're going to have to put in a lot of work in which to limit the spaces.
Yeah.
Darlow's really going to look to get forward. Wan-Bissaka is obviously going to come inside. Now, if Casemiro, what you might find will happen is Wan-Bissaka will maybe push up into midfield. Emerson will come more central, and Casemiro will actually drop into the back three because he's more comfortable. So he'll probably drop between Lindelof and Shaw, will split essentially, and Casemiro will drop in the middle because he's a more consummate passer and more comfortable in possession. Having him in that position, he's going to be able to hit the diagonals to the likes of Darlow, to Antony, to try and play those passes between the lines. And Wan-Bissaka will essentially move into that against that last line of midfield defence, staying in that half space to kind of provide an option for Antony. He has got better, really. He's under kind of cutting runs. And then again, you've got then Eriksen look to dictate as a kind of a deeper playmaker, and Fernandes is going to be then looking to get in between and trying to get ahead of Martial. Now, Martial's hold-up play isn't great. So again, if we can be quick and aggressive, I think that's probably going to be the call of Ogbonna. Yeah. Either him or Kehrer, well, essentially any of those back three are going to have to, or be expected to, when he gets the ball, to pressure him very quickly, because his hold-up play probably isn't as good as it should be. Obviously, if he's in a foot race, he's going to beat Ogbonna. That's my big concern. If they are able to play those side rule passes, those balls down the side, Ogbonna's going to be in trouble. Now, Kehrer has decent pace. He showed that in the tracking back he did against Haaland, and a fantastic slide tackle to put it out for a corner. We know Gerd has got fantastic recovery pace, but when we're looking to have to go against a very quick centre forward and striker, Ogbonna is not going to be the guy. And as we saw in that Manchester United game, and I know people love him, and I've said it all the time, I would let him go at the end of the season, because for me, he's like James Collins. Put his head on everything. He will throw himself in front of everything. But dear God, he's got a ricket in him and a mistake. Often he's the player that makes the first hesitation, the first mistake that can lead to a goal, but it's the other defender that then gets it in the ear.
Yeah.
And it's happened throughout his time at West Ham. He's also been brilliant for us.
Yeah. But I think since that injury, it's just made it so he's lost so much pace, and you know, to even come back from his injury and be playing how he is in the Premier League with the intensity of this is crazy. Like he shouldn't be relied upon to be playing, but you know, circumstances.
He's a reader of the game, Frankie. He really can. It's just that there are times where his concentration lapses on it. It's why Juventus let him go for so little when they did sell him. You know, they bought him from Torino for not very much, and he was lauded at the time as being the next big centre back. But it's because of those concentration issues that he has. Is why he's never moved back to a bigger club from West Ham. Why he never sustained himself as a bigger player at Juventus. Granted, he played a bit of left back there as well. But
I actually think, I really do think that he is going to be so key to us having success. I think what you've mentioned here is really spot on. I think where we can try and get at United is turnovers in this middle part of the pitch when they're trying to play through the intricate lines. And like you mentioned there, when the ball comes into Martial, Ogbonna's going to have to be right on him. And we need to get then Rice trying to nick the ball, even Souček coming into this area. Obviously, Paqueta's going to drop back. And then we need to capitalise, because looking at the other way, Mike, how we're going to try and exploit Man United, because it is very likely that we're going to set up in this kind of compact shape, make it difficult for them to play through us, not allow them to kind of counter-attack us, and we're going to try and do almost what they enjoy doing away from home to them, and kind of flip the switch a little bit. So when we can try and when they try and feed the ball into these kind of lines and get it to Martial's feet, I think that's what we kind of want. I don't think we want the likes of Fernandes and those sort of players getting it to their wide players in Antony and Rashford, because that's where they're going to start creating some panic. They're going to drag out defenders.
Exactly.
They're going to drag out people. Johnson's going to get isolated. Emerson will get isolated in certain situations, because obviously Antonio and Bowen are going to be asked to do a lot, going both ways. And naturally, as the game progresses, this what we see here, like this with Antonio and Bowen, is going to start to become this. And you mentioned the spaces of Eriksen and Fernandes and what they'll pick up. They will find a lot more space, and they'll be able to ping the ball out wide into these areas. And it's going to be on Souček and Rice to be cover. What we need to be really switched on about, like we mentioned, is when that ball comes into Martial and we win it in this area of the pitch, because then we've got the outlets of Antonio and Bowen either side, and we can break with pace, because they are fast. And what we'll see as well with United, when they're trying to get back, obviously these will come back. Eriksen, again, is someone that's not got blistering pace. Fernandes will track back. But what we'll see is their front three, actually, they don't really track back much, especially when it's kind of turned over like that. They'll kind of just sit up like this. And I don't know if that's deliberate from Ten Hag to kind of then counter the counter when it. I think
it is his tactical preference is to essentially almost keep a level of superiority. If the ball breaks down, you can then hit quickly. So it's about giving some sort of level of superiority. Because if you then, for instance, if we then push forward, both our fullbacks are up, for instance, and Souček and Rice are pushing up. So all of a sudden, you've got Martial who can maybe drop in the space. Antony and Rashford can invert, and then all of a sudden, if Rashford is able to turn, it's 3-on-3. If that's the kind of what happens, because Paqueta's going to get forward, Rice is going to get fairly forward as well. So all of a sudden, you have 3 players that you can then drift in field to put them in a really dangerous area. Obviously, you're reliant on your midfield to be able to find that pass, but you would then ultimately be looking to push those players almost in a 1v1 situation. And, the likes of Fernandes will be trying to look to break into a space in which to then make it a 4v3. He's going to try and get back, because Eriksen, as you say, doesn't necessarily have those legs to get up and down the pitch for a full 90 minutes and at pace. So he is going to look to be a bit of a deeper playmaker, do that kind of Carrick-esque role where he kind of sits to receive the ball and then makes those intricate little passes to keep it ticking over, and to then find those runs of, say, a Rashford, who's then looking for the likes of Fernandes joining from deep to then link play and to play those quick 1-2s, or those very quick combinations that allow you then to pull defences out of position and then start to bring players through. And that's the thing we've got to be aware of, because they will come, say, narrow and then split, because that will then draw players out of position, which allows the likes of Fernandes to burst forward.
I think that's what worries me, is when we're kind of attacking this way, say we've got the ball down the right-hand side and it breaks down in this area, Casemiro comes across, Fernandes is then in his pocket, and what you'll see immediately, like you mentioned, they'll split. So if we've got a 3-on-3 here, and we've got Rice kind of as the anchor here, just covering both the spaces, if they win the ball here and they play that pass through to Fernandes between Souček, between Paqueta, where that space he will like to pick up, what you'll see is Rashford do this, Antony do this, and you'll see the ball come out quickly to Rashford, and then look at this. You've got Kehrer in a 1v1. Either Rice is going to have to come across. We're going to have to hope that Souček's getting back in or Paqueta's covering, because otherwise, like you mentioned, Fernandes is either going to underlap this way or he's going to create an overlap for Rashford to come inside, which he loves doing. So that's my biggest concern about tomorrow is, like you mentioned, down this left-hand side, but it's actually in counter-attacking positions where we've committed a lot of bodies forward, trying to be a bit more...
It's the transitions where this game is going to be a loss for us.
Absolutely.
Where we do arguably have an advantage is going to be at set pieces. If we can get our set piece delivery, you look at that Man United 11 and you don't see many that you go, they're going to be confident at set pieces against us, unless it's very smartly taken, or they're going to be confident defending. Now, what they may do to counter us is play someone like Scott McTominay, because he is 6'4". It'll add another bit of height. Moyes' conversation seems to be about mainly thinking about the physical battle and wanting to bully United. That should tell us it's probably going to be fairly route one. Hitting it towards Antonio, trying to do what we did to Ruben Dias and so on. Trying to hit direct. And it doesn't necessarily mean just long ball. It does mean like playing the ball quickly, you're playing and getting it forward, from front to back quickly as possible. That doesn't always mean it's hit long over the top. But I do think we'll play some direct football.
Yeah.
And he's going to look to try maybe, and it would be smart to try and isolate Antonio versus Lindelof, because obviously physically he is stronger.
He'll win that battle.
He is quicker. Now, Lindelof is an unusual defender in that he can actually have a brilliant game as a defender.
He's a good player. He can be, like you mentioned, he can be very aggressive and win those challenges well.
But he can also be, again, he's one of those players that sometimes look like, oh, there's a ricket in him. There is a mistake. So you'd like to think that Antonio, if you are just going to be telling him for 90 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever, just go for him. And in some ways, I would be just saying to Antonio, look, you're playing 60 minutes of this game. Regardless, 60 minutes. So for 60 minutes, I need you to empty your tank. Don't think about the game on Thursday. In 60 minutes, I need you to empty the tank because I'm bringing on someone else.
Yeah.
Then you bring on, say, Cornet.
Cornet won't be available, will he?
Oh, sorry, no, he's not available. So again, he's going to bring on Ings, so then we're going to have nothing up front. This is again why I would say, why do we not just give him a chance? Because he's quick, he's fairly strong, and he will also press the way he wants Antonio. This is what baffles me. He has a player very much in the mould of Antonio, not same physically, but yet refuses to even give him a chance. And I know people go, oh, you can't throw him in, they're young. Oh, what happens if it all goes bad? Well, what happens when you've got an experienced player and it's going bad and he's got no confidence?
Exactly.
The same difference. We're not going to kill Mabama if he goes out for the first 4 games in the Premier League and he goes, oh, wow, that was hard. If you just got to listen to the way that lad talks, he will learn so much from playing hard games where he doesn't get anything out of it. He will learn so much because he is, as even Kenny Brown said, he's in like at 6 o'clock in the morning sometimes, in the first player into the training ground at Chadwell Heath, just kicking balls at goal and doing little kind of things to do to improve his game, staying after them. He will do the extra hard yards, the things that Declan Rice did that got him to where he was, because the likes of Pellegrini turned around and said, you're too good to go on loan. What are you even on about thinking you should be going out on loan? Go knuckle down, go and work on things, and you will be back in this team and you will be a big player. That kind of man management, that kind of also what's instilled in the player themselves, they will develop and will come back stronger from it. And I don't see why, I know where people go, oh, yeah, but, it's a big game, we might win it. It's like, yeah, but what about if the kid comes on and scores?
No, I think you're right. I think as much as we've said it so much this season, but he's not gonna pick someone like Mubama over Ings, because then he kind of has to try and justify what he's done in January. But in terms of kind of the overall layout from what we spoke about with this match, the importance of what a win could do, not for just the survival aspect of staying in the Premier League, but also our chances for Europe. How do you see it going? What's your prediction?
I struggle with this idea and this notion that we are playing really well. I just think we'll make a mistake that will let United in. I just, we was all really confident. We were chatting in that after the first half, and I said, if we keep the same level, we have concentration, we'll be all right. But I always have this feeling that someone is going to switch off, and I do see Bonner do it at fair time. Kehra's been guilty of it. Again, has been guilty of it. Emerson, anyone who seems to play in that back four this year seems to switch off. The thing that we've got to be so aware of is the back post. United always attack the back post. We lost at United this year because Cresswell refused to even defend the back post area, and Rashford just ghosted in and tapped it in the back of the net, and that was like in almost the last minute of the game, I think. So we've got to be better at protecting that back post, and we can't afford to make mistakes. We can't have one player at a set piece dropping back and not bringing the rest of them back. There's got to be some, authoritative calls in that point of, if someone goes, you grab them and you pull them back in. You make sure that everyone is so well drilled, because you make mistakes like we did against City. If we're playing in the way that I anticipate, which I think is, again, going to be pragmatic, it's going to be looking to
absorb and encounter.
Yeah, it's going to be about transitions. It's going to be about set pieces. It's not necessarily going to be about us trying to control the ball.
Yeah.
Then you can't afford to make mistakes, because in that type of approach, if you make a mistake, it's very then difficult to change the patterns of play in the game. And the thing is with United, they can always empty more pace onto the pitch. They do have players with pace.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily rate him in McTominay, but again, they'll probably bring him in. Who, again, that if we're looking at our bench, they can bring on McTominay, who is a level above Downs. No disrespect to Downs, but it is true.
I don't know about that one, but that's for a conversation for a different day.
But he is, though. He has a better player, more of a goal threat, and so on. So
what's the score going to be, Mike? Give me the score.
I think it's going to be United, mate. I just don't buy into this that we're playing great football. For me, it'd be 1-2-0 United. We might have a chance, but someone's going to fluff it.
I'm actually quietly confident for this game. I don't know why. Just got that feeling about this one that we're going to win. So
I want to be proven wrong. I want to be proven stupid after the game. I really, really do, because it would just be great for us to get this win and to have a little bit of pride in beating a top 4 team or a top 6 team, and just bring a little bit of pride back into the season, because it's been
tough. It's been tough, but I'm gonna go with 3-1 or 2-1. 2-1. I think we'll just edge it. I think we're gonna win. Yeah, I think we're gonna win. We're gonna see. It'll be interesting to see how Moyes.
It's like a Souček brace, isn't it? One of them's gonna be an overhead. It's gonna be, but their goal is going to be a tap in, because we've all just stood there and watched it roll across the goal.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see what comes true for what we discussed in the breakdown. But let me know what you guys think of that kind of breakdown. Do you enjoy it a little bit more than what we usually do with a preview? Kind of a bit more interactive, and you guys can get involved as well in the comments. So leave a like on the video. Hopefully we get the 3 points. That pretty much means that we're going to survive this season in the Premier League, and then we can concentrate on Europe. It's a tough game, but it's one that I believe we might win. Mike, not so much at the moment, based on the results we've had recently. But that's going to be all for today. Make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and Mike, until next time.
Come
on, you Lions.